Part 3 of chapter 28 and 29 in the McKay book. This is Mr. Oliver representing right here, giving you some real talk about the 20th century. Everybody knows about Hitler. Everybody's heard of Stalin. Most people haven't heard of Mussolini. Or even if you have, you might not know much about him. So basically, here's what you need to know. He's from Italy. His name is Benito Mussolini. He's part of the fascist party in Italy. Before he got into politics, he was a journalist. But ultimately, he gets bitten by the totalitarian bug and decides to go into, into being the ruler of a trouble-making group of malcontents after World War I. They feel as though Italy has not been given a fair shake. He is famous for saying things that are very controversial. Nowadays they would be. Back then, the whole idea of a social Darwinist view that, the strong survive was not that crazy. But it's more of the kind of thing you would hear before World War I. Him saying that the struggle between nations is not only good but essential is pretty crazy stuff. Take a look at what Mussolini says that fascism is. He says, primarily fascism, the more it considers and observes the future and the development of humanity quite apart from political considerations of the moment, believes neither in the possibility nor the utility of perpetual peace. This is crazy talk for an era that, as we're going to talk about in a later part, is very much geared on let's have peace, let's avoid ever having a nasty war again, blah, blah, blah. Then he says, it thus repudiates, gets rid of, or dislikes the doctrine of pacifism, born of a renunciation of the struggle and an act of cowardice in the face of sacrifice. War alone brings up the highest tension all human energy and puts the stamp of nobility upon the peoples who have the courage to meet it. The fascist state is an embodied will to power and government. Interesting there. Do you see the will to power? Remember when we talked about Nietzsche? Everyone always compares Nietzsche to his influence on Hitler because of his whole, you need to be the Ubermensch, you need to seize the day and do what you must, ignore good and evil. But will to power is definitely something you could also tie back to Nietzsche, and you see it here with Mussolini. The idea of force in action, the growth of an empire, the expansion of the nation is for fascism an essential manifestation of vitality, and its opposite a sign of decadence. So you always got to be conquering people. You always got to be moving on. Peoples which are rising are always imperialist. Any renunciation is a sign of decay and of death. Never before has the nation stood more in need of authority, of direction, and of order. If every age has its own characteristic doctrine, there are 1,000 signs which point to fascism as the doctrine of our time. So clearly, this is a little bit dangerous, because this guy is full-on advocating, like, you need to be going and invading other people, because otherwise you are a sissy boy. And he's not the most enlightened thinker like that. By the way, did you notice this picture of him here giving a speech, bare-chested? It's pretty crazy to think that a leader would allow the press to take pictures of him with his shirt off, trying to prove that he's a manly man. You wouldn't really see that nowadays. Or would you, Mr. Putin? Anyway, Mussolini led an army, private army of his fascist followers. They were called the Black Shirts. Want to guess why? Yeah, they wore black shirts. That's why. And they marched on Rome in 1922 to demand that the king give them rights, make Mussolini the prime minister, and make and he, in return, will stop all the violence in the city. Now, never mind that Mussolini's black shirts were the ones causing most of the violence. He said he was going to end it, which he actually was able to do because he was causing it. So it was pretty easy to make it go away. It's like if I'm punching you and I'm like, look, I can make this stop. All you have to do is give me $20. And you give me $20 and I'm like, I've somehow figured out a way to keep you safe now. It's like, well, no, you just stopped hitting me, bro. That's that. The term fascism comes actually from the fasces, which is a Roman symbol of strength through unity. The little rods there are bundled together, and they're supposed to symbolize unity. It's a Roman symbol, if you might expect, because Mussolini was all about the glories of ancient Rome and bringing that back. As I said, his private troops are called the Black Shirts. The interesting thing about Mussolini is compared to all these other cats like Stalin and Hitler, Mussolini really is very mild. There's not a lot of opposition to him. He's extremely popular till about 1943 or so. And historians disagree about why. Some people think like, yo, people just really liked Mussolini. Some people thought like, well, you know, yeah, he had a secret police, and yeah, he censored the press, perhaps owing to his old journalistic background. Actually, he did a lot of that himself. It was very interesting like that. But it could also be that people just straight up liked Mussolini. They're just like, it's easier just to ignore some of the bad stuff. It wasn't like Stalin's Russia, where people are being arrested right and left. Mussolini had about 400 arrests over the course of his rule from 22 to 43. That's terrible. But relatively, that's not a lot compared to the other dictators. He sets out this goal that he is going to avenge Italian humiliations. What humiliations? Well, think back with me. Italy had won World War I, and yet, did it get a big reward for it? No. Italy had once been the most bad astronaut place in all of Europe. It was amazing. It was Roman dominance over the continent, pretty much. Now, Italy is that one country, it's shaped like a boot or something. I mean, people don't realize how amazing they once were. So, Mussolini says, we're going to restore the greatness of Italy. We're going to make this thing here, which we all know because we know our geography, it's the, say it with me, ready? 3, 2, 1. I didn't say it. Did you say it? Let's try it. 3, 2, 1. Mediterranean Sea. I bet you said it. The Mediterranean Sea. He said it's going to be like the Mediterranean Lake. More like that, son. And it's going to be like that because all of this stuff that I am outlining here is going to be like a Mediterranean lake for Italy. Mare Nostrum. Mussolini also had opinions on race. I said before, he didn't arrest a lot of people. He didn't execute a lot of people relatively either. But he's still a jerk. Mussolini says, when the city dies, the nation, deprived of its young life, the blood of new generations, is now made up of people who are old and degenerate and cannot defend itself against a younger people, which launch an attack on the now unguarded frontiers. He said, we got to stay moving. We got to stay vibrant. This is going to happen. They're going to get us. And it's not just going to happen to cities and nations, but on an infinitely greater scale. The whole white race, the Western race, can be submerged by other colored races, which are multiplying at a rate unknown in our race. Mussolini is a huge jerk and also a little bit racist. Just wanted to throw that in there. This here is a monument to Victor Emmanuel, the king of Italy under Mussolini. Some people nicknamed it Mussolini's typewriter because it looks ugly. Some people think it looks like a typewriter. I happened to have the fortune to be in Rome, try to get a picture of this, because just beyond this kind of modern-looking place is a view of the ancient Roman ruins. And I tried to get a picture of it, but these tourists blocked me. So in the back, you just got to imagine, you could stand there like this dude is here and see the Roman ruins, and then you could see the monument from the same thing. Italy, and especially Rome, are really interesting because you get a juxtaposition of the old and the new. Now, under Mussolini, art was important, but it wasn't art to empower the person. It wasn't art to make you feel better about yourself. It was to emphasize that you were small and the state was big. The individual had very little role in the modern state. The state was all. You are a flea. Look at this. This is a picture taken from the ground. Notice the Roman-looking statue. This is kind of a neoclassicist kind of motif. But also you've got this big, ugly building, but it makes you feel small as a person. Look how big it is. And look at this thing. I don't know if that's supposed to be Mussolini's face or anything, but like, you straight up, that's got regular people. Let's assume they're about 5'7", 8". Okay, average for the time. Maybe a little taller. And you got this. And it says, see. Yes. Mussolini, yes. Maybe that's why he was so popular, because people were like, oh yeah, Mussolini, yes. I hear good things about that guy. Mussolini was the guy that made the agreement that said the Pope gets his own country. The Vatican will be its own country. Many Catholics actually liked Mussolini because they felt like, you know what, he put the Pope back to a position of prominence. The Pope had been a prisoner in the Vatican, so to speak, since our unification of Italy back in 1870. So some Catholics really liked him. Plus, Mussolini hated communists, hated socialists, and hated anti-religious viewpoints, which a lot of people were like, well, us too. We also hate those things. So he brought stability in that way. Now I'm going to stop there and do Hitler as a separate part. So let's take a pause, time out, be back in a minute.